since they're at the front, they should be trying to influence the audience's opinion totally by telling them things. Obviously the audience doesn't need to pay attention to what the lecturer is saying.
I think all speakers or teachers or lecturers try to influence opinion. I know when I'm lecturing students, I'm trying to teach them something and implant something into their minds.
If they're not trying to influence their opinion, what are they doing speaking to them?
Well, dependent upon the lecture, I would have thought that that's what lectures are for.
Well, I suppose a leader has to try and do that. A speaker, I'm not sure, depends what they're speaking on. A lecturer, I think, perhaps ought not.
To the greatest extent that they can.
That's really interesting. I actually think, I taught for quite a while in a radical school in Leicestershire, and we used to argue this. And actually we thought that there was such a lot of the dominant opinion around in society that sometimes putting an alternative point of view was a good thing. But it wasn't, we used to think that, you used to say that, I'm saying this because I believe it, I'm coming from, I don't know, whatever it be, a communist perspective, a socialist perspective or whatever.
Well, again, I think in some circumstances, yes, I think it's perfectly right that a lecturer should put a strong point of view, a conviction point of view, which may well persuade people. But many lecturers, of course, want to present a case and to leave it open for the audience to make decisions. So there are different circumstances for different things.
Well, I think a lecturer or a politician who speaks to an audience has got a twofold thrust. It must be two-pronged. One is to convey the message that is contained, the contents of the lecture or the speech. That's very important. The other one is his own philosophy, his own thinking, which he's trying to put across. And if he has got confidence in himself, he believes in the things that he does and says, then he ought to try and influence the audience towards that avenue, which is for the better of the whole society. It would be impossible, and it has been impossible from time immemorial, to find all the people believing in one thing and going in one direction. By the very nature of our life, we have got variety, we've got different beliefs, different ways of life, different persuasions, and that is indeed how we live. What we have to learn to do is, as I said earlier, to believe in the philosophy, which is live and let live, accommodate each other, do not have swipes at each other, do not attack each other, do not be offensive to each other, be careful of what you say, and you'll find a lot of harmony. The friction that you have is because people, under the mistaken belief of unbridled free speech, take it upon themselves or acquire the license to attack other faiths, other ideologies, other beliefs, and hide behind the skirts of freedom of speech. That, I think, is very destructive and divisive.
I think that depends on what the one way of living is. If that one way of living involves stoning women for adultery or not permitting the use of condoms or all sorts of other things that I feel are quite negative, then maybe that one way of living isn't that great. In general, I think diversity is a really good thing because that encourages discussion and we can learn from one another. So.
A modern society, in the sense of an urban industrial society, is incredibly vulnerable if everyone has the same set of beliefs and ways of living. And just as in ecology, and a diverse system with many different predators and prey and so on and so forth is more stable than a monoculture, like a wheat field, which can be invaded at any moment by a sort of single issue parasite or predator. So yes, I think that the more diverse views, the better up to a point.
That's a really interesting question, actually. I did live for a while in Switzerland, and bits of Switzerland are incredibly conformist. And I actually think that worked up to a point, but if you didn't agree with it, it was very, very difficult. And I think Sweden apparently is a bit the same. Probably not in the cities, but rural Switzerland, rural Sweden. So you actually, I think, a pluralist collection of views is very valuable.
I'm a very firm believer in diversity.
I think that demands about 10 books at least.
It has to be made in different ways. Once everyone believes the same thing, the failure modes are chronic. They're terribly dangerous.
Well, I think it's better to be having many different outlooks, I think it's more creative. I think there's more edginess between the communities. I think it makes us stop and think. I think societies which have a single view tend to be conservative, rather sort of, there's an inertia to bring about change and improvement.
A level of disagreement is good for a society, I think. Make sure things are carefully looked into and examined before decisions are made. Functional, it's a funny word. I suppose some would say that when everyone is on the same wavelength, then things might work a bit better. But perhaps below optimum because things are being examined properly.